Hey everyone, I'm Abigail Dube,
I'm Genia.
and you're listening to Knockout Origins. Hello everyone, and welcome back to an all-new episode of KO Origins. Today we have the amazing Morgan with us. Yay! How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
You're looking amazing and beautiful as ever.
Oh, shucks. So do you.
So apparently, as I've been told, you're in karate as well.
Yes. Yes. I should say I was, because I haven't been able to do it for a little while, but yes, I was.
You still have the skills. You're still able to defend yourself and kick butt. So, and to some people's surprises, you had a brown belt. Was it?
Yes, I did. I was working towards my Shodanho.
Okay. Most people think okay, once you hit black belt, that's like the top level. You're like the most mastery. But then karate goes, nope, you can take it 10 steps further and you can just keep getting a version of a black belt.
It keeps
It just keeps going. You just
going.
keep upgrading. So and then once people max that out, they just keep adding layers. Who knows?
Because there's always, the thing is, it's not only is it a defense mechanism, but it's also an art form, right? So there's a different way of just showing the mobility and the flexibility of various movements that you can use in defense and offense, right? So with them having been able to create different katas for each level, it can keep going, and each one is more difficult than the other, because it's not just making sure that the movements you're doing are absolutely perfect, but it's just the way that the body flows and the discipline that comes along with it. That's what makes it harder, which is why there are however many dans afterwards, which is way more than 6 for sure. But
I was joking about the just keep adding things after people get bored, but see, you took it to a realistic level, and I appreciate this. You made my crazy into sanity. How did it? This is amazing.
And learning is never complete, right? You're always learning more things, and you're always perfecting your craft.
Yeah.
So the higher that you go up into the different levels, our Shihan is an 8th dan. His Shihan behind above him, is higher than that. So it's just constantly perfecting and working on the art form, because there's always so much to learn.
Mm-hmm. And it's also really understanding the amount of mental balance that you end up finding during all of this, right? Because a lot of it is extremely physically demanding. Mm-hmm. But what you also learn about it too is the very quaint meditative state that you're in as well. And you're connecting your mind with your body, and everything just flows, and it just has such a very serene moment that's happening within those katas when you're doing it, which is why so often when you're just doing those katas, that's like your yoga going on right there. You're just embracing everything that's happening right now, and then also, you can kick ass with those same type of moves too, right? It's just really understanding the connection with oneself and really emphasizing on that knowledge, that aspect of it, and that is ongoing. You will never just become a master of that one particular thing. You're always a student.
Yeah, which I love that, that ideology, because it's so true. It makes you feel like you don't have to worry about perfection. You can kind of let that go, no matter what level you get to, whether it's professional or just amateur, just for hobby. You can just enjoy what you're doing, because no matter what, you're always going to be working on something. So yeah.
And there's no such thing as perfection. No one is perfect.
Nope.
Perfection does not exist. Always learning.
Unfortunately, I'm definitely probably killed 10 perfectionists in the audience just by saying that.
No, but not even just that, because that's not even the case at all. With everything, if you want to get better at it, you practice it.
Yeah.
And if you, whatever is considered perfect is your own satisfaction with the work that you've done, right? And if you're satisfied with what you've done, then that's fantastic. And then also knowing that you can still do it better without putting so much pressure on yourself, with wanting to actually work towards another level of doing that, then that's where you re-enter that practice. You do it over and you do it over and over and over again. And there are some aspects where you don't necessarily have to worry about it too much. But if it's something that you know you dedicate your whole self to that moment and those times, every single time, then that's what's going to help you, right? But it's just the practice. What the perfection is comes with the imperfection, and then your own self-satisfaction.
Yeah, I feel like the more you can be like relaxed about things and like actually enjoy them in the moment, that's where like the perfection comes in, or like the really like doing things well, that's where it comes in, when you're really calm and like at peace.
Yeah. And then you'll have those stressful moments too. You will definitely have those, oh shit, what the fuck did I just do moments, right? And then sometimes good stress can help you achieve various things, right? But then you have the bad stress, which is what often drags you down and really has a negative influence on your whole self, right? But there's still that balance between the good parts, the bad parts, the stressful parts, the calming parts. It's everything comes together as an entity and allows you to present this in a package, you know?
Yeah, all together, like tied, and it's like having the balance. I think that like is the common theme. I feel like that we always come back to is having that like nice balance.
And it takes years. It took me years trying to out. It doesn't come instant, if only. But then that would life is interesting, right? If we're able to figure things out right in the second. It's like, here you go, problem solved. Then it's just
then what do you do after that?
That's just not how it rolls. It's not like you're searching for it. It's not like you're searching for drama or anything, or problems had to happen to you. It's just there are various things that you have to be able to figure out at some point, or to a degree, and it will take months, days, years, centuries if you live that long. But you know.
Hey, I heard there was a lady in Spain who's 113 and she survived the coronavirus, so it can happen.
There you go. It can happen.
It can happen.
There's a few people who are in their century years, so that's...
And I feel like I'm not surprised that this person was in Europe. So siestas.
There was a lady in I think she passed, but she reached 114 in the States, and she was actually born into slavery at the time. And I think this was years ago, but they did a documentary on her. And of course, they couldn't find a lot of her documents because she was slave. But yeah, she lived until 114. I can't remember what year she died, but that's pretty lengthy. And that was in the States.
Damn. And she had a hard life. Like,
that's tough. She's seen a lot.
Yeah. In 114 years, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, and that was over 10 years ago when I saw that. So yeah.
Who knows what she's seen now? She's still alive. Good for her.
No, I know she did pass, but it would be make it best for her, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she wouldn't have want to see the States the way they are with the virus right now.
No.
That is...
Go back in time. It's supposed to be moving forward.
Right? Yeah. You would
probably
think...
not voice, but something like
that. Well, it's, a little bit of dramatization there, a little bit of reenactment, so... It's all good.
It's all good.
That's why I was, because, okay, this is just like a gossipy news thing that I saw. You know, supermodel Gigi is like pregnant now. She's like 22, 23. And I'm just like, when I heard this news, I'm like, I grabbed my heart. I'm like, oh my God, like she's so young. How could she do this to herself? But then I remember she's like millions of dollars. Her family's super ultra rich. She's born into all this stuff. She already reached her career probably highlights and goals, and like has been on countless, you know, magazine covers, etc., etc. So I'm like, when you think that back and like put it in relative terms, if she's happy in where she is in her career, like, and there's not much more for her that she wants to accomplish, maybe she feels like she's ready at this time, at young age. So yeah.
Yeah, because everybody views life differently, and accomplishes things based on what they feel is right for them, you know, and what some may consider young. Okay, again, I'm talking in legal age terms, okay? Legal age terms, right? If you feel like you want to have a family at a young age, then there's nothing wrong with it. As long as you're able to have those resources available for you.
Yeah.
And you have that support that you know will be there, then go ahead. Of course, there are instances where it's a surprise, right? And then that's going to be their journey on their own. Whether you have millions of dollars or you don't, right? And everybody's life is different, and I think it's just a matter of perspective, truly. And I think, yeah, I if she's doing that, then that's great. And if they're having a kid, congratulations, that's fantastic, you know. And then I think it's just making sure that people don't compare themselves to that particular life, right? That's something that they deal with. And again, we're only seeing what's in the tabloids. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You know? So that's that whole thing of just making sure, just remembering that they're human too, as just as well as us. They may have more following, but they're still going through everything that people go through. They're still people. You're all people.
Yeah.
You know? So it's just everybody has their own life. You know?
Anyways, let's bring it back into karate. That was a little bit of a left turn there. I guess, well, did you ever compete in karate, or did you just do it for more of like a hobby and like a relaxation kind of thing?
So for me, again, I grew up into it. I didn't compete. I was just training mainly, and then it became a hobby for me. And it was also a great way of learning self-defense, and then also helped with discipline as well. And also, since we didn't have much of a choice of taking karate or not, it just kind of happened. Life. But yeah, no, that was at the time when I think everybody had just stopped doing tournaments in our household. So I didn't have to do that. So I was, when they were finishing, I think I was around 2, 3.
Right. Yeah.
4. So that's, yeah, so I didn't catch that train ride moving into tournaments.
Yeah.
Definitely heard all the stories, the war stories and everything from that. But yeah, no, mainly it was definitely just training and learning and self-defense and hobby, and I really loved it. I really did.
Because I feel like even
I wish I could do it, but apparently being a pianist, I can't necessarily injure myself anymore, so I have to be careful. So since the hands aren't insured, I gotta insure them in different ways.
Right. I actually, that's funny because I remember hearing about that. I forget who it was, but like someone like famous had their like, maybe it was Taylor Swift or something. Like they had their legs or some part of their body like insured for like millions and millions of dollars. And
oh yeah, I guarantee
that's so silly, but I'm like, I can understand it because it's very important.
It's valuable if it's something, especially if any celebrity has, like, if there's a particular part of their body that's absolutely critical to their career, they have it insured. They definitely, and then it would be smart to have it insured as well.
Yeah.
Because if it goes awry, well then there you go. You got the help that you need. You got the backup.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And that's kind of troublesome. But yeah, you got the money. I get it insured.
Just practically though, you need to, because if that's your livelihood, if that's what you're making money off of, like
Yeah,
people insure like their vocal cords, like if they're a singer, I mean, if Morgan had the money, she would have to insure her hands, her arms, her body, because I mean that's the way that she's making her living. If Morgan can't use her hands to play piano anymore, then she can't make her income. So it has to be insured, you know. So that's
sure she could learn.
She can't make her money off of piano, right? If we're so it makes sense that people insure their body parts, because that is it's like job insurance. You know,
Yeah, for everything else,
if you
right?
can't your employment insurance, if you can't work, then you get unemployment insurance to pay, you know, until you're able to work again. It's the same thing. It's because these parts is what they're making their living off of. That's their job.
Yeah.
Right? So it has to be insured.
Yeah, I wish I'd be able to insure my hands, because I've been through 3 major injuries, especially to my arm and my hands, and one of them was from a car accident. And just that whole scenario, because they didn't consider piano as a job, I wasn't able to get money to cover for that. So there are things I haven't been able to fully recover from my last injury. So there are things I had to learn how to do on my own and relearn and adapt to things over and over again. It took for most injuries, took me 6 to 8 months to really heal. And then the last one, I just had to relearn how to do techniques and scales, and how to sit at the piano, because it affects my back as well. So I wish I was able to have my hands insured, because that would have saved me a lot. But I think just having to go through that helped me realize that there are different ways of going about it, and you're just gonna have to learn how to do it all over again. And that made me, put me in a better position in terms as a musician. So now I know how to adapt to certain things.
Right.
It's vital. It is vital if you can, and if you can afford it, to ensure whatever body part you need for your career.
Mm-hmm. And with that, get insured, people.
If you can and if you afford it, we're not pressuring you.
Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah.
Well,
otherwise, just be careful.
Jeez. I mean, but some of those things you can't even control, right? Like the car accident or like anything related in those lines. It's like, yeah, it's just totally out of your control. So,
and that's where you just learn to roll with the punches and discover, and that actually allows you time to just discover who you are as well, and what it is you want to explore, right? So it's a really great time to just take a really good moment to take that time to do that, right? So that allowed me, those times allowed me to reflect on various things, of whether it's which direction I want to go, or what it is I can learn at this time. Just when you can, after wallowing in lots of sadness at the beginning, but being able to transition into coming into myself, and being content with what it is that I'm dealing with at the moment,
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's what hopefully a lot of people are trying to do with like this moment in time right now, and like with COVID, because there's just so much uncontrollable and so much like badness that it's like rippling out, and hopefully that's what I'm trying to do as well, as like draw it back in and being like, well, even though the event planning business is probably gone for quite some time and may never be the same, that wasn't like my love of jobs. Like I was doing that as a means to an end and to pay what I really want to do. So what am I doing? Like I'm doing sports, I'm doing boxing, I want to talk about sports, I want to do music, and like do all these different projects that like we were talking about doing for so long. And finally we're like, hey, we have the time, like let's do it, and let's try these things that we always wanted to do. And like taking that time to really settle into like getting comfortable, because it's like, for whatever reason, I was always like, okay, all these other people can do sports and they can be badass and be awesome, but like I can't, I'm like in this other separate category, and like for whatever reason I just like mentally separated both of them, and I'm trying to like merge it together, like, I can be like these people, I can be just as good, like, you know.
You can be multifaceted.
Hey, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like, for example, I love doing a ton of different shit.
Yeah.
And I do all those different shit. And I'm so happy that I'm doing all those different shit. Right? Whether, especially because I've dealt with over the years, for especially as a pianist, just dealing with that mindset of, okay, well, since I'm a classical pianist, I can only do classical music, and I have to focus on international competitions and positions and concertos. That's all I can do. I can never ever do pop music. I can't merge the universes together. So I've been through that mindset, and that stressed me the fuck out. That stressed me out so much, and because it felt like I wasn't allowed to do all of it, because both of them took so much energy and so much dedication, right, of making sure that I can do this. So there was a time where I had to stop doing the other genres of music and just focus on classical music. But then I realized that's not exactly where I want to go, and I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, which I haven't gone for my postgraduate yet for music, because there's so many different things I want to explore. So I'm writing on my degree as long as I can.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with taking time to explore, because you don't know, some people know exactly what they want to do right away, and that's fantastic. For me, it was hard. And then I realized that I love being a part of all these different worlds, and I can still do all of them, which is, I still do my classical music, but I'm also in silent films, right? And I totally lost my words there. I'm writing my own compositions, right? And I'm going back into singing and video editing and cooking again. I mean, I'm not trying to go into professional cooking. That will never ever happen. But all these different things, and back into painting, right? I love doing all of these things, and so now I'm just putting them all together, right? And I've done that for the past 4 or 5 years, and I am loving it, right? And going into jazz and combining, doing the classical jazz fusion stuff, still premiering people's works, and there's nothing wrong with doing more than one thing. And I find it's often so easy to be categorized for only doing one thing. And then criticize you for doing that one thing. And then say, I'm doing what makes me feel happy, and this is what I love to do, right? There's nothing wrong with doing more than one thing.
Absolutely. For whatever reason, I feel like it comes down to like, especially in Canada, not as much in the States, because there I find like it's a lot easier. You can transition, for example, from being like a pop singer to like doing movies and like work your way up, or like even being like a wrestler, and now you can branch into movies and like being a big box office star, and like it's really easy to like just as your life goes, like you can just flow with wherever you want to go. Here I find there tends to be a bit more pushback of like, oh, like you're a singer, you can't do this too, and you can't do this, and like can't do, like, you just want to be talented at everything now. Like people get like really worked up and almost upset about like people having more than one talent, or like going for their dreams in many ways. And I think maybe it just comes down to like they felt they could never do that, or they're too scared to do that, or whatever, like the actual reason. They never wanted to like realize that they have many talents as well. And so now they want to like limit others from doing that, which maybe is like a totally like opposite opinion or like experience. But yeah, just from being in like when I used to be in film and television, it was like you always had to pick like one thing to specialize in. You couldn't be like multiversed.
And I think it's not just based on the countries as well. I think that just comes out as a whole, because the main thing I find most people worry about is security, right? And making sure that you have something that will always bring you the dough, or just put a roof over your head. So I find that's always number one. And then comes down to, oh, you're doing too much, right? I find that every country, and to a certain degree, has that, right? And also that comes from basic different type of backgrounds as well. So that's just the world as a whole. You just want to make sure that you have that security, and then they're just used to putting people under labels and categorizing them for this, and this. Mm-hmm. So that way there's too many people doing that, this and that, this and all that other stuff, right? But it's just fighting for what it is that you believe in, and then standing up for yourself for what you want to do, right? Mm-hmm. And there are those who are lucky enough to be in an environment where they feel supported, and they know that they can go through with this with not as much judgment, and that's amazing when they go through that. But then there are those who are condoning bad behavior when it comes down to people actually wanting to do what it is that they love, and having to or all of that. Because there are certain risk factors that you are taking, right? And it's just a matter of risk management and knowing where you transition, or where you can blend the two together, and right. It's not always going to happen right away. You just got to weigh out your pros and your cons, and taking, and how much you want to take in what people are saying, and then remembering you got your own brain. You don't necessarily need other people's opinion unless you want it.
Yeah. Right? Very true. It's hard to like push back on what other people sometimes are like going to think, or like anticipating what they might think. So sometimes you just like can't overthink it. You just have to do it.
Do what
the scariest, the riskiest thing, but yeah.
Unless you ask for it, it doesn't matter what other people think, right? Unless it's something that you are willingly putting out into the world, and you want to know what people are thinking about it, and that's right. But when it comes down to your own self and your own mind, and you are in a good place to be able to take care of that, then you don't have to listen to all the different stuff. But there's nothing wrong with taking in the criticism if it's vital, and if it's something that you want to hear, so you can work on a particular task to that degree, right? But based on what it is you want to do, that's on your own mind, unless you're asking for somebody's opinion,
And always be critical of the person that's giving you the advice, right? So if the person, you have to look and navigate who's giving you this advice. If someone is telling you, oh, you shouldn't be doing a whole bunch of different jobs, that person probably only has one job. And that person probably never tried to do other things because they never felt secure, or never felt as if they could. So, right? Somebody that does a bunch of jobs probably isn't going to tell you that, no, you can't do a bunch of jobs. Right?
But that was the point I was trying to hit at. Yeah. Thank you for.
Yeah. you gotta judge who's giving you this advice.
Yeah.
Right? For one.
That's what I mean. There's like some people who maybe are a little bit more jealous, who didn't necessarily feel comfortable to actually try what they wanted to try. Maybe they have a little bit of resentment, a little bit. So
And then on top of that, man, just do what the fuck you want to do, man. Don't listen to people. They're not living your life, right? They're not going through what it is that you're going through. They don't have to go through what you go through every day. So it does not matter what other people think.
Exactly.
You have to be happy. You have to do what makes you happy.
Yeah. Especially because, like, for a long time, this is why, like, I just stopped going on dates, or, like, just doing that whole scene, because a lot of the people that, like, for whatever reason I was bumping into or, like, connecting with would just be like, Well, what they would ask me, obviously, like hobbies and like what you want to do, and I would be honest with them, which is like a huge fucking mistake because they would just be like, "Oh no, like you can't do that. No, not you. No, especially like if we're gonna like be a thing. No, I can't. I couldn't stand to see you like get punched and all that stuff." And I'm like, first of all, you're insinuating that I wouldn't be good enough to like not get punched. Second of all, it's not about you. Like you don't have to be up there, whereas I do. And like, why would that be a fact? Like, you don't have to watch. You don't have to participate in that. Like, how would that factor in any sense of control? And it just felt like too much like having control over something that like really doesn't affect them at all. And like looking back, it's like kind of sad to like want to limit like a partner or someone in your life and be like, yeah, you shouldn't do that because like it stresses me out, even though you're happy and I see you're happy. No, like you can't.
That is so toxic.
Yeah,
When if you're with somebody and you are meant to be a support to them as well,
yeah,
right? Want to explore these different things, and they're telling you no, especially if it comes down to wanting to better yourself and you want to just do these different, especially in your situation, they're telling you, oh no, and then automatically assuming that you can't do it. Honestly, I can't stand when people tell me, oh, you're never gonna be this.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
watch,
Oh girl,
just watch me.
oh yeah,
Do it.
come
Right?
at
That's
me.
the thing. When someone says you can't do this, and
Mm,
and
mm.
my field, and they tell me you can't do this, and I'm like, verbal then?
Oh yeah, you're gonna eat your words 5 seconds from now. So
Don't say that to me. But that breaks my heart, man.
yeah.
Like,
Well,
if
I
you're,
mean, it's partly probably maybe just the, I want to say like energy that I was attracting at that time, bringing like into my life. But yeah, it just feels like part of me is something like I have to learn, right? And to grow from was like, because finally up to that point, I don't think I ever said really no to people, or I was always like letting people have their opinions of me, and then I would conform to that, be like pushed over. Whereas at that point, I was like, no, like I think I could be really good at this. Like I want to try and I want to like do this thing. And it has nothing to do with you, unfortunately. So
no,
that's
no, no,
you're
no,
gonna make
no,
your decision.
unfortunately, not
Unfortunately, yeah, it doesn't.
you, not unfortunately.
And it's like, why would you? That's the thing that I struggle with is like, why would you want to limit someone from like, it grows them personally, mentally, spiritually, makes them happy. Um, it like reduces stress and like
Yeah,
anxiety and like so many benefits. Why would you want to prevent that? Just because you have like a backwards view of like um, gender role stereotypes or whatever.
because they want to hold you back. They don't want you to
They're
to
just gonna
level,
hate.
they don't want you to level up. They want to hold you back on their level, and
Yeah.
that's not worth it.
No,
That's
I
toxic.
don't want to be mediocre forever.
They're trying to have some control over you, so that way they don't have any regrets of things that they've done in their life that they didn't improve. Just
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah.
that just
But like for a
that
long
makes and that
you
just
just
makes
have to step back, step away because um and like transferring gyms too and like everything, just having to leave like all that baggage at the door. It's just people constantly saying bullshit that I don't care about, that I don't need in my life, and I'm sure other women get this too a lot. Just leaving it at the door, and then once I'm in the door, like I get treated just how everyone else gets treated, right? Which is like was eye-opening for me. It was like, what? It was so cool. So I think yeah, maybe it took me like a lot longer than usual to find like a good place, or to find a place that was like just everyone is on like the level playing field. It was so worth it. So just, I run into so many crazy men. It's insane. Just all of them.
I feel you there.
Yeah.
But everybody's going through something. Everybody's trying to figure themselves out. So it's not always going to be a smooth ride,
Yeah.
And it's weighing out what you're able to handle in the moment, or whether you can help them or be there for them. But sometimes it gets rough because everybody's going through some sort of shit.
Yeah.
Everybody shit, and it's just trying to direct yourself in a path that works best for you, and that you'll be able to work with as well when you get to know. Everybody's going through something, which is why everybody is sad. We're all in some sort of ways kind of a little fucked up. That's just in our own way. I'm fucked up that for sure.
I honestly could not tell. You're like the most sweetest, like kindest person of all people. So it doesn't come off that way, but again, Genia did show me the video, so
yeah,
I have been warned of messing with you. Fear for my life after watching that thing. The poor guy, he's just bruised and battered and beaten and bloodied. Man.
5-year-old.
Yeah.
I know I didn't
relentless.
That much. It's just the video we are referring to is me beating up on my dad and on him and stuff. That was interesting. Right. I don't know. He must have done something that day that must have
pissed you off.
Yo, we had just come home from church.
Cool.
That's why she was in that dress. Just came home from church. Started to pick a fight. 2 years old, picking a fight. You were so cute.
But haven't changed a day, Morgan. Have not changed at all. Typical.
I'm a size difficult, honey.
That's why they couldn't put you into competitions, is the real answer, because no one would have made it out alive.
All I did end up doing competitions, but just in a completely different field. But all right.
Well, I guess a question I wanted to ask was like, how's karate, or what was like the biggest thing that you took away from karate and just practicing like a combat sport?
Definitely practicing a certain move over and over again, having that discipline to wanting to improve it and to make it better and more fluid. That was definitely one of the main things I took from it, as well as working or starting to understand the art of breathing and being able to use my breath as a way to find grounding again. So that was the start of it. And then having been trained through other things as well, I've been able to use meditation and then breathing to really find my center again. So definitely those two things. Of course, besides learning self-defense and knowing how to kick ass when I need it, also knowing that anything can literally be a weapon if I am in a desperate need for it. So knowing how to make use of what you got. I think as well.
Why does it keep freezing on me?
Oh no, we have frozen screens. But we can still hear each other.
Yeah, we can. Abby, can we hear you? Can you talk? Nope.
We lost him. We lost Abby.
Did you finish your thought though? Because it will be.
Yes. Yeah, I did finish my thought.
Okay. Yeah. So I will stop and we'll come back in.
Just the technical difficulties today, people. But we're okay. We're okay.
My computer just decides to rage quit at the most inopportune times. So that is all right.
That's okay. That's okay. We're filing our way through, and we're continuing on going.
We are soldiering. Yes.
All right.
Okay, so we...
Yeah. What was the next question? Before Zoom kicks us off.
This is why I'm like, it's so hard to get a good flow going today.
It's okay. It's
our own flow. We're all
it's good.
Yeah.
We got this. And I'm dancing.
Yeah, well, I guess what are your thoughts on female fighters and like how many females are going into competitions? Because it feels like it's kind of like plateaued a little bit. It doesn't feel like a lot of interest is being done in the sport. In terms of like, there still seems to be a lot more, at least for boxing, not like for every sport, male to female. Just like wondering like if it's the same in karate or if you notice like anything different.
I think in terms of more commercialized sports, we're still having to deal with the marginalization of, promoting women in whether it's boxing or MMA, right? And have more, especially having more interest going into the men's section than the women's. In commercialized sports, that's definite. There's still a large degree of separation in what you want to popularize more than the other, right? However, they are making progress. I feel like they can definitely emphasize that more, so that way people who identify as females will be able to relate to that. And if they want to go, oh, hey, there's still something that I can do with this, right? I can still go into it. And I think I feel like it's such a better job, and then also not sexualize it as well, because that seems to be a popular thing.
A huge thing, yeah.
We're not doing it in lingerie. We ain't gonna watch it, which is so fucking stupid, right?
Yeah.
But of course, if it's just dealing with that over sexualized nonsense that they like to advertise it in, when clearly it is not,
Yeah.
So that's that they're still dealing with. In terms of karate, to be honest, I haven't followed as much karate tournaments. However, it looks like because it is generally a co-ed sport in terms of when they're just focusing on katas, I know that I find it's a little bit more balanced. Of course, when they're sparring, then they make sure that is to the gender the person identifies as. It's not as commercialized as I would think so, at least from what I noticed. So I know it's a little bit more co-ed, and you would know more martial artists in karate. Both genders. I just find in those where you have that are stuck on like the pay-per-view channel or the new DAZN channels as well. It's just male focused. I find, but they are making progress with introducing more female identifying fighters as well. It's still a stigma.
Yeah.
I would hope that they'd be able to resolve at some point, but it's just still something that we have to fight. But that, hey, they know that we're out there.
Yeah.
They know we're doing it. So
I think that's like the start. Well, it's still really surprising to me that, actually I'll have to look this up, but I feel like boxing was probably added for men, I think like back in 80s or 70s as an Olympic sport. And then it wasn't added for women until 2011, 2012, right?
Yeah.
So that's like 40, 50 years of a gap right there that like for whatever reason, even though there were like plenty of fighters and like even I think up until 90s in some places it was like illegal for women to be on fight cards and like just for random reasons that like it just doesn't really make sense. to like put these like preventative measures in place for like people who you don't necessarily what their skills are, so why not let them show you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just like really interesting to have that like perspective, I guess. And still, yeah, like it's pay-per-view is really hard because in cable the way it is really hard.
Yeah.
I don't know why they strictly do that for like boxing and like certain fights. I think it would be easier to access it like through the streaming platforms.
But still, depending on who it is who's fighting, they still make billions out of that.
Yeah.
Make a shit ton of money, especially if it's the name and the amount of popularity that comes with that name.
Yeah.
They still make a killing. Right?
For sure.
Still people working, it's all the groups of people that are working in the background that make that the popular based on what it is that they want it to. Right? So they focus on certain things they want to put out there, not necessarily what the people would want to be able to be influenced by, you know? So they really want to show, which
or
is
even just like representation. I'm feeling like, because like, yeah, there's Clarissa Shields and Katie Taylor and probably others, but they aren't like as publicized, so it's hard to be like, yeah, I know them, or like I can like look up to these people, because just the amount of resources that like they aren't divided evenly, and the amount of like publicity and fame and attention that probably a pro will get compared to a female pro. It's just like not even, you know, the same level. And it just feels like, well, not even just in combat sports, but you see that with like the hockey league, right? How hard they were fighting for equal pay just alone as like a whole organization. And just like to be accepted, and like the soccer team, they won more medals and have been medaling more than the men's side of things, yet they got paid, I think it was like 40% less. I'm not sure what the exact numbers were, but it was a big difference, and they were actually getting results, which is the sad thing. Like, how much do we have to prove to like earn the same amount of money, same amount of attention, right? It's just like with all the commercialized sports, even basketball or just anything, it's like it feels like there's constantly that like pushback that you have to go up against. So
and that's where how you value your voice and what it is you do to make that known out there, right? So it's just people are still fighting for it. Still, or like you're saying, you know, they're doing all these amazing things. How much more do we have to show you, right? But whether it's just for their own sake or for your own, the fact is that you're still doing it, still aiming for what it is you believe in. That is how you use your voice, and your voice will be heard. Whether it's saying it or vocalizing it, or you keep fighting, you know, in your tournaments and everything to be able to show what it is. You know, it's hard, and it only takes time for people to. Or we get them old people, them people that's been there for
out of the way,
right?
And
we're not, and just to clarify, I'm not talking about like age in this regard. I'm talking about mindset. It doesn't matter what age you are. There are still those that have that particular mindset that they.
Well, it is like an older mindset, right? Like a more conservative, like traditional, however the word to describe it.
Mindset, right? Because there can be at various ages and have a more open state of mind or are accepting of various things, and there are others where it's just they're just stuck in that particular in their heads, right? So it's just once the people that have those mindsets are out the door, then there'll be able to be room for more acceptance, right? But we still gotta fight for a little bit.
Oh yeah. And I think like well, Genia and I were talking about this a little bit yesterday about like checking those people, or like you don't even have to be necessarily mean about it, but just making them think and being like, hey, like take a second, like
Yeah, think
why
about
do
it.
you think that way? Like what about this kind of? And just like even just for 5 seconds making them be like, well, maybe I'm not 100% right, or maybe there is a different way to go about things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know like quite a few of friends from high school, for whatever reason, I think they're like super orthodox or like Eastern European, and their viewpoints shock me a little bit, to a point that I'm like, don't know if I want to be friends with you anymore.
Yeah.
So it kind of ranges from all ages, and it just depends on, I think like how you're raised and the environment you were brought up in, and what you were kind of exposed to. And sometimes that can be just a really narrow viewpoint. So, but yeah, like those like heavier girls in the upper weight classes, like 75 kilos, whatever that is, like 150, 160 pounds, like they can punch, that they weigh just as much as the guys, and they can punch hard. So
No, exactly. Hell, even if you go to tennis and you compare Serena Williams to Djokovic or Nadal and everything, like she actually went against like one of those people. And even though she lost that match, just the fact that a lot of people, her speed is it's very hard to beat.
still,
Very
and
hard to
after
beat.
having a kid and all of that, it's still hard to beat. Like, I think that's the thing that was like more impressive to me, not to like sound like unpatriotic or like coming off as negative, but that was the thing that was like really cool and inspiring to me to see, was like after people probably constantly telling her like, once you have a kid, like you're over, like you can't do, your body's just garbage, and probably like constantly getting messages like that, and to come back and be second, it's incredible. That's amazing.
That's
That to
badass.
me is like a win right there.
That's what that.
Yeah.
That's what, like
I
if I
still
were,
love her. She's still my number one, like forever. Just
man, like
yeah.
if I were to have a kid and someone was telling me that, I would be like, just shove that right back up there and do not dare say that to me. Because again,
I shove the baby up there, but
I
then
don't like it when people this, because I feel like just show myself, and then of course you end up witnessing it because I'm gonna be doing it.
Absolutely.
Like, it's just, let's just
Every time.
so infuriated.
Even my mom sent me an article about like Mandy and like a few other like big time professional athletes who, they're not even old, they're like mid 30s or early 30s, and they just recently started their families, and quite a few sponsors dropped out on them, and they're treated pregnancy like an illness or an injury, and they refuse to walk that journey with them, and to be like,
And do they
stay with
get
you.
other part that makes that person pregnant?
Yeah, they don't get consequences. They get all the
Right.
monies.
It takes a whole other person to make that person pregnant. So they're totally leaving that part out too. So
Yeah.
I mean, like
It's
if you
just
can
like,
still do your job, then do your job. Right? If you're
yeah.
still do your job, nothing's stopping you
And like,
unless you feel like you're not gonna do it anymore. If you're ready to retire, you're ready to retire. But if you're not ready, well then you better keep doing it if that's what you love.
because these women are still doing it, but it's the sponsors that are leaving the support behind, and they are proving time and time again, like after having a baby, 8-9 months back in the gym, and they're dominating and they're winning, but yet the sponsors are still like, yeah, you're over, you're worthless, like bye. And it's
Women's
just
bodies
like,
are like
maybe
women.
it's because of the whole like, oh, you can't be this young like sexualized thing anymore once you're a mother, like your worth is just, and I think it's like constantly, people say, oh, there's no such thing as sexism anymore, we don't need feminists, but like, you take a look at that, like that is more proof in what people are doing than what they're actually saying. Because there's no support for women after a certain point. There's no support, like financially or emotionally, like after they stop being like useful or like, you know, in a certain degree, or like however they want to sell you or whatever. So I think it like goes to show that like, if you really were accepting and like supported women equally to men, that wouldn't be such a huge drop off. It wouldn't be so drastic. And women wouldn't be like left high and dry. So
that's why there are still female identifying people out there fighting for what it is that they want and that they need, and that they require, because that's not going to stop them. That's not going to stop us, right? And we know that these things need to be changed, which is why, however we use our voice, we're going to very well damn use it. So that way they can hear us, they can see what it is that we're doing, and that all female identified people are valid. Right? So to hell with those sponsors that don't want to sponsor us, well, you know, we'll do our own way.
Yeah.
We ain't going nowhere. So
it's not going to stop us being the top performing athletes. So sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's just like that whole perspective of like, once you have a kid, you know, you're done. That's all you are, a mom.
It's so stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, and like even going into like the classical competitions, what I used to be in, right? For so many, because I did those piano competitions for a good 12, 13 years.
Yeah.
It takes a lot, right? And of course you deal with like the racism and the sexism and all that. That's just gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
Terms is because it's so easy. The main stigma in classical music is that if you're 25 and you haven't made it yet, then you're nothing. That is like
the common theme in like every industry.
So I should say that's the stigma that I was aware of. One of the things, right? That if you're this age, you're not gonna make it, right? But it has been proven time and time and time again that no matter what damn age you are, you can still make a living for yourself. You can still make a name for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So then, of course, that's why most competitions for instrumentalists, even though the main reason is because they do want to help young, like upcoming musicians, right? They want to focus on that, which is why most competitions for instrumentalists are either 23 to 25 and under, right?
But young is subjective, though.
Yeah,
and everyone's life doesn't look the same.
Exactly. Exactly. And then for vocalists, it's 30 and under, right? So it's still very restrictive.
Yeah.
Right? But what happened, again, like you're saying, everybody's life is different. Yeah. So what happens if you get injured, you have to take time off, and then it just so happens, bam, you're 27, but you can't compete, right? Which is why they do have other competitions now where they include people of various ages, but now they just put them in an older category, or it's an open competition, right?
Okay.
But it's still hard. Like there's so many of those stigmas, and then it makes you wonder, what's the point of competitions?
Yeah.
Right. But the thing is, that's where it's a necessary evil, because it gives you the chance to like network with people and to be able to put your name out there. But then it brings on so much stress, right? Yeah. By going into competitions, you're just focusing on yourself and what you're doing. And it's easy to compare yourself to everybody out there that's happening right now. It's like, oh, this person sounds better than this, or I like the way they did that piece, and oh, how I'm gonna do that? I can't do that the same way. Well, the thing is, that's why with anything, why is it that we have so many musicians, so many artists, so many fighters, so many competitive players? It's because they all bring something different to the table. Right. We all take to everything, whether it's in your case with boxing, you have a new unique way you take that punch, or you strategize how you're going to fight them in the ring, right? You have a different way of thinking than the person you're competing with, and so does the next person and the next person. I have a different way I'm going to perform the music to the best interpretation that I can of the composers, right? But my playing of my tone, my tonality, and my pitch and everything is different from the next person, because I have a completely different body than that other person, right? So then it's just focusing on your own self, and it allows you to challenge your mind of that focus and that everything into it. So whether you have all these sexualizations and everything coming in, that ain't gonna stop you, right? But then it's just making sure that you are in your own right mind to be able to go in there, that you are in a healthy mindset to go in there. I highly recommend not going in if you're not mentally ready, because it takes a fuck ton of stress out of you. To be honest, if you're ready, then you won't feel that, right? And then just remembering that you are in it for yourself and not for anybody else. You know? It can be so stressful. So then when you're still fighting for your own rights, when you are in the profession where you have sponsors cutting you off because, oh, you're pregnant and your body's changing, well, that's just something you have to fight for, and then reevaluate what it is that you really want to go through and continue through, right? And then just noticing that your voice is still going to be heard after whatever sort of thing that you're doing. You know, that's the way that you're going to voice it out. It's a strange world we live in.
Very strange.
Very strange. But with all these things, we still have to experience it so that we can learn from it, understand it, grow from it, and then keep going.
And then reevaluate those sponsors that want to drop you because of that. That means why?
Well, mind you, this is a huge name sponsor.
Get another sponsor.
This is Nike.
I don't care who you are. I don't care who the sponsor is. If they're going to drop you because of some sort of reasons like that, then they're not worth it. Find other sponsors, right? Just get creative with your thinking and find another way to do what you love. I wouldn't stay, like, if somebody would be like, okay, you can't do this because of whatever the reason is, I'll be like, okay, cool. Thank you for your time. I'm gonna go find something else.
Okay,
I'm gonna find another way to accomplish what it is that I want to accomplish.
Okay, bye.
Just because you said no, that doesn't mean that I'm gonna stop. That means, okay, thank you. Our contract can be finished. I'm gonna go find somebody else.
Exactly.
Just leave. You don't have to stay there and take that. Find another sponsor.
And just because they are a major label doesn't mean that they're all that. Doesn't mean that they're all that.
Clearly, they don't know shit about women. So
there are plenty of other brands that would be able to happily represent you if you share the same values and worth. So one major brand isn't always going to be that.
Don't care who it is, man. Don't let anybody take advantage of you or treat you like that. Don't accept that kind of treatment. Move on. There'll be other people that want to help you. Go to them.
Exactly.
I think it's like just being able to find that community now, and more than ever, a lot of women are like coming forward and coming together as a support, because before it was like women against women, but also women against men, and it was just like a whole chaotic thing that like nobody wanted to either talk about these things that were happening or support each other and believe that they were happening. And I think now that like a lot of those things are coming down, it's like it's making things a lot smoother and a lot better. And people a lot more comfortable to be like, yeah, I saw that, I'm experiencing that too, and this person is too, and like it's clearly not just like a one person deal, but a bigger systemic thing. So what are you going to do to fix that?
Recognition, representation, and acknowledgement.
Are
things that are so important to this entire situation, because this happens all across the board, no matter what field you were in.
Yeah.
Right? Like those three things help create harmony within this situation. If you are not acknowledging the problem, there's still going to be a fuck ton of problems that you're dealing with. If you don't have representation, then you won't be able to draw in the people that want to be able to see themselves where that person is at.
Yeah.
And if you don't have recognition, then you're not going to be able to understand where your problem is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So those three things help to make the situation better.
Yeah.
And because it seems like the best way to call people out is going on Twitter and saying all the shit that's happening, and then you see it.
I love Twitter.
You see the threads of people going through the exact same shit, and then of course the company's so big, and they realize, oh wait, no, we can support this, and then they are forced to change it. So until their names are brought onto the judgment table to realize that, then So unfortunately, there are times it takes such a big moment for them to make those changes, right? Until then, they're not gonna allow themselves to be knocked down by people coming up here. No, it takes a big crowd. It takes a large crowd of identifying women to do that. Well, then we very well damn well do that.
Yeah.
And it always seems like Twitter's the best place to do that too. So
I know, it's where everything starts.
I
have literally like 0 followers, but I get involved in all these little discussions, and it's just, you end up spending hours on there. All the discussions happen there.
On Twitter, I just read everything. I'm like, yep, I feel that, but okay, ooh,
yeah.
Bad.
So it can be so validating, but also like so anger-inducing too, because I find a lot of those posts not only draw out like a lot of support, but as well a lot of like the angry like white guys, mid 40s, 50s, nothing better to do, and are like, you people are so, rights for everyone, just the world can't handle it, or whatever, for whatever their reason, they just get so angry. And
that's you gotta pick and choose your battles, because not everyone's worth the fight.
Yeah.
Pick battles, and then also know when it's okay to stop and just leave that problem right there, because it's not going to resolve at this point, right? Because I find especially on Twitter, there's a lot of angry people on there.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you can't take it to your heart as well, then maybe not the best decision to use that platform, but it's okay to read and realize that there are other people that are feeling the same way, and then can voice that if you can, right? But you gotta be ready to go to battle.
Oh, I go in guns a-blazing a little too hard, so sometimes I just need to stop. It's the natural Scorpio in me, I'm just so ready. I'm just so good to go.
Ready.
I was just born that ready. Like,
as long as you have a strategy and your heart is okay to deal with that, well then go ahead.
Yeah. And it makes me happy to be like, well, let me just, be like, come up with a little sassy thing and slap, a little virtual slap to you. So.
And also speaking of sassiness, the one thing I am very happy about, I will say, is that nobody's afraid of, well, I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people are no longer afraid of speaking out.
Yeah.
Because that it's not going to be tolerated in today's society. So that is number one. So you will see those changes. It may not happen right away, but you will see those changes in those brands that will know that have a problem with pregnant women, or people coming out after going back into their jobs after they're pregnant, right? Mm-hmm. They're not going to do that shit anymore. They're not going to take that. Yeah. They're not going to that kind of treatment, right? People are standing up for themselves. Mm-hmm. And I'm so proud of those people.
Yeah.
So proud.
Me too.
I'm not going to take that anymore. I was like, yes,
it's like finally like the underdog, that little guy who got pushed around this whole time is finally like rising up, and it's like that exciting time. They're building.
It is
So exciting. Yeah, for a long time I was like just, I guess, not necessarily scared, but nervous to speak out against certain things because I knew it would make specifically men angry, certain people angry. And I felt like, oh, that is easily making me a target, that it would make me like everything about me a bad person. And what if I like, I don't know if I could handle that at that time, just being dragged down like that. Now I'm like, I'll come back at you, but
it all takes growth, right? Because
yeah,
of course you're gonna start off being
it took a long
scared.
time.
Yeah, of course you're gonna be scared of like the possible repercussions and what you're gonna lose and everything. But once you're comfortable with realizing that no, I can't stand this.
Yeah,
I'm not through with that. So whatever happens, I know I'm going to be okay.
yeah,
Right? And it's a long ass time to be able to come to that point where you're confident with that. You know, everything comes with the confidence and the reflection and understanding who you are as a person and what you're going to take.
mm-hmm. Yeah. It just was like, I think talking to myself and being like, well, do I want those people necessarily in my life if they're going to react like that? And do I want to appease those people and make those people happy? And a lot of the times the answer was no. So, okay, if staying silent is appeasing these people that I don't want to be around, why am I doing that? Like, and I'm just sacrificing my happiness, my sanity, my everything for people that at the end of the day don't cherish me anyways. So,
Exactly.
pshaw.
Like, done.
Yeah. Bye byes. Well, I guess we should start wrapping it up there because we might get booted off again. Thank you so much for dedicating your time to this and for putting up with all of our technical difficulties. Our yes. Yeah.
For inviting me. I appreciate it. This was a great conversation.
Yeah. I think we've had a most instructive conversation today, and hopefully our audience has enjoyed as well, because this is like something I could talk for years and years about. So
and so the podcast will go on for years and years
and years to come. Potentially.
It's all based on what you want to do. What your heart feels right.
Yeah, exactly. Do what you want to do if that feels right for you.
Yep.
Maybe that's what we're going to take away from this. Anyways, we will let you all go and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Hey everybody, I'm Genia.
I am Abigail Dube.
And you're listening to Knockout Origins.